Why, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Innovantage podcast, where business meets tech to bring you your competitive edge. As always, I'm your host, Max, and it is my ongoing job and duty to explore that edge between business and tech and to find out what lurks there. Today's episode is going to be a very interesting exploration from my point of view. We're going to be talking about tech and law. How do those two things coincide? Does one help the other? Does one stop the other? Where is tech applicable? Where is tech limited? And how the law profession generally looks at tech implementations throughout its day-to-day. To help me on this journey is my wonderful guest today, Mr. Aku Sorainen, who is the founder and senior partner at Sorainen, which is one of the largest law firms here in the Baltics, and the chairman of the supervisory board at Crespect, a software as a service practice management system specifically designed for law firms. So Aku, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Max. It's a great honor to be here with you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you arrive to your point in your life where you're the founder of such a huge law firm and you're implementing specific technical solutions?
Well, I'm from Finland, and I studied in the university at the Polar Circle in the early 90s when the Baltic countries became independent. And it was very exciting news that we have now these three re-independent countries very close to Finland. And I thought that this would be an exciting adventure to come to study the business laws of these countries. And I made my final thesis on the business laws of the three Baltic countries. And I got big Finnish corporations to sponsor my thesis because nobody in Finland knew anything about these countries. And when I finished my thesis, I started to get calls from these big Finnish corporations and realized that there's some business potential here. And then I moved to Estonia to first start the medium-sized Finnish law firm's office there. And then 2 years later, I started my own office. And maybe the story, when it comes now to this technology, relates to our... When I started the firm 30 years ago, I really actually knew nothing about the business of law, how to lead a law firm, and even less I knew how to lead an international law firm. But we became international very early. So 30 years ago, started the Tallinn office, then 2 years later, Latvian office, then 2 years later, the Lithuanian office. So in 1999, we were already in 3 countries. But because we were a pure startup firm without any legacy systems and without no really experience either. So I felt that this is all going to fall apart because we don't really know how to run operation. We don't know what the best practices and processes of a law firm are. So then we started actually to build ISO certified quality management system. And at the same time, we started to build our own legal practice management system for all our offices so that we would know what the other offices are doing and we could spot cross-selling opportunities and clear conflicts of interests. And so this kind of identifying the mandatory processes for a law firm, identifying the best practice, and at the same time building a software that supports these processes. That's how it all started, and that's what we've been doing during the past 25 years.
25 years is a lot of time to actually do that. And your firm is a very successful one. For those of our listeners who are outside of the legal profession and outside of the Baltics, can you give a little bit more insight into what the firm does, what kind of legal cases you undertake, and what's your focus?
Well, we are a pure business law firm, so we advise clients in all business sectors. Now increasingly also because the Baltic companies are maturing, we are advising the owners of these companies in their, let's say, family arrangements and inheritance issues. And then we have a growing also corporate crime department.
Oh, really?
Yes. But they all relate to business, what we do. We don't do the kind of a traditional criminal law, or we don't do traditional family law either.
Okay, that's a very interesting focus specifically for a law firm. And I kind of starting to understand why the Baltics seemed like an interesting place to focus on.
Yeah.
They have experienced a lot of business development specifically over the last 25 years and technological development as well. There have been many unicorns that came out of the Baltics, and that in and of itself creates a very fruitful environment for investigations and collaborations. So how big is your team now?
We are now little over 400 people. I think we are about 420 or something.
And most of those people are lawyers, as far as
most are. So I guess we are a little over 300 lawyers, or around 300 lawyers, and then a little over 100 business services people.
Very respectable, and a great reach for the region itself as well. What would you say is kind of the main guiding principle that you had when founding the company and leading the company throughout those years?
I guess there were kind of two guiding principles. One was to cover all 3 Baltic states, because that was kind of my topic of my thesis. I learned very interesting, talented lawyers here in Lithuania, then in Latvia, then in Estonia. So I considered, and I realized that many of our foreign international clients considered this as one market, not really realizing how different the cultures and languages are. But I mean, small countries next to each other, it must be one market. So that's kind of one guiding principle. The other guiding principle has always been to kind of do business in a kind of Finnish way. And Finnish way means that these are the kind of family values that I've been raised up with. Being very, so to say, honest, straightforward, open, and at the entrepreneurial and curious. So I guess this is what I have got from the home, and so far it has taken me where I am today.
Well, it is a very nice place to be in again. So those principles must work in the Baltic states as well as maybe outside of them. So then my question would be is how does its structure work right now? Do you have offices working separately? Because as you said, different languages, different legal bases, different precedents, right? Everything is different between the 3 Baltic states. There are some similar things, I'm sure, but a lot of it is different. So how do you handle all of that right now?
That's a good question. I wish we had more integrated the legal practice groups than actually we have today. We have, I'm sure, that more integrated than anywhere else in the Baltics, because we are one partnership. We have today 51 partners. We are sharing the profit of the whole one firm rather than individual offices or practices. So that already is a strong incentive for us to cooperate together across the border. But still, quite many of us still tend to think that we are more, so to say, bound to our own borders and countries than actually we are. Because in business law, you see that about 90% of the work is actually it's generic type of business work. It's all contract work. There is, so to say, best practices on running certain types of business transactions, which is quite uniform across the 3 Baltic states. There is, let's say, specific industry-related practice, which is also very common across the different Baltic countries. So then the kind of 10% element is the domestic local law element. But sometimes we think this is a bigger thing than actually it is. But where we have seen a lot of integration is on our back office, on our business services. All the systems, they are fully integrated, and I could say that our IT, for example, is headed from Estonia, our COO here in Lithuania, our risk management, compliance in Latvia, our revenue management in Latvia, our HR in Estonia. And so we have been able to to really build economies on scale when it comes to the business services.
That's a very complicated system, it sounds like. And from the kind of corporate and technological governance, because I do want to talk about technology as well as business, and we've talked a little bit about business and legal tech as well. So where's the place for tech in all of that? How do you tackle innovation, generally speaking, within those kinds of structures?
Actually, just before I go into this, our firm has no headquarters, which is also quite interesting to understand that we are fully, so to say, how should I say this, flat organization without headquarters. If we need talent, especially in the business services, we look at from whole the region and then we build a position where the person is, rather than think that we must find somebody from Estonia or somebody from Latvia, Lithuania. But where the tech is, I mean, tech has been with us from the very beginning, because as mentioned that we had to start to build our own practice management system. So how we run the law firm. 27 years ago, when we realized we need a central system, we accidentally chose a CRM software. Maybe just some guy sat next room where our first office was, and we thought that something what he had was pretty cool. So we took it, and then we had one lawyer at Sorainen who was a very good lawyer, but he was also tech enthusiastic. So he was coding in the evenings, and so together with him we built this holistic practice management system for a law firm. And when this old kind of legacy system became obsolete about 7-8 years ago, then we thought that we don't want to build anything ourselves anymore. Let's buy the best in the market. Let's see what the Americans and British are using, and let's learn from them. And then we saw all these demos of this kind of world-leading practice management systems. And to our great surprise, we realized that all of them, any of them, if we would take, would mean many years back for us. Because all of them were built on financial management point of view, not CRM point of view. So what we had built was that CRM and the whole client journey is the kind of a core process to deal with. And then financials are kind of an addition to it. They are just end product of this client journey. And we realized that anything what is in the market, they consider this end as the whole. So that was a big thing for us to realize that we have created something unique here. And then we realized that we have to just rebuild the legacy system again, kind of a modern SaaS version on the cloud. We spent a couple of million euros on building it. It worked very well. And then we realized that, okay, if it works very well for us in 4 jurisdictions, we still at that time had also office in Belarus, which was a market-leading office, very good one. But we exited Belarus last year for, let's say, known reasons, unfortunately. So we thought that if this works in 4 countries, maybe it's scalable also to other jurisdictions. And then we thought that, okay, let's start to offer it for other law firms. But we made the first version, cloud version, which was kind of a low-code platform. And it was actually very expensive platform, and that was not scalable because you would have to pay this low-code platform provider substantial license fee, and then putting our own, let's say, business solution on top of it would be unfeasible. So we had to kind of build the whole system from the scratch again. So it took us 2 years or 3 years, and we launched the kind of a light version last year, and now this full ready product this autumn. Again, even we improved what we had a couple of years ago in this low-code platform. Now this new one is even more advanced and more user-friendly and getting better every time.
Well, first of all, congratulations. It has been a long journey, and launching a product of that magnitude and with that type of understanding takes a lot of time and resources and effort. So kudos on that. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into the general situation in the law industry then? Is implementing new technologies, cutting edge solutions, something that law firms generally do, or are they more conservative in how they approach tech?
Law firms, traditionally, they are highly conservative. And there's a saying in the UK, which is kind of the holy grail of law business, financial services, that how can you tell to millionaires that their business model is broken? And that's quite true. I mean, big law firms have been so very successful working in, so to say, 100-year-old manner, that how can you tell them that there is a better way? Why should they risk? So that has been a challenge. But this AI has kind of created this hype now for the past year and a half. Now even the most conservative law firms understand that there is something happening in the technology which is worthwhile paying careful attention to and at least trying out. And what happens currently is that many big law firms are buying these, practically everyone already has Copilot, which comes with the Microsoft package. Then a lot of people, of course, work on with the ChatGPT on their private issues. Some have now this Business Pro version, which is a siloed version of ChatGPT that is claimed to be safe for client-sensitive confidential data. But then there are two platforms now which have kind of created these waves in the legal market globally, which is Harvey and Legora. And those are two platforms have been trained to analyze legal documents. Now this is what most law firms are now piloting and practicing, how to use these two tools for analyzing legal documents. Many have had these high hopes that AI will help to draft the documents. That you push a button and off comes, let's say, fantastic agreement. Or you push another button and off comes a fantastic memorandum. But law firms have recently found out that it doesn't actually happen so easily. That yes, you push a button and a lot of paper, a lot of text comes out, but when you start to read it more carefully, then the quality may not be what you expected. And of course, we already have a few court cases in the USA and in Europe, in UK, where the lawyers have not really read what these AI tools have generated, and they have been fantasizing, and then these lawyers have been sued and been fined by the courts for bringing fantasy.
Well, the good news is that the judges are at least reading what the lawyers are writing out.
Yes, at least in few cases. We don't, of course, know whether all judges have read everything what they have received. So there might be a lot of fantasy in the court rulings, which we never hear about. But what is now happening? I saw interesting statistics just 2 weeks ago in one legal tech conference in Finland. And it was about, somebody showed statistics, how law firms have changed the way they use AI tools this year versus last year. So 25 versus 2024. And one thing what I noticed there, in general, I mean, most of these trends were increasing. That 2025 they used more for, let's say, document analyzing, for research than 2024. But something what was decreasing was document drafting. So they use less AI this year for document drafting than they used last year. And that's very interesting. Why is it so? And one explanation, which I believe is a very realistic one, is that many lawyers tried out last year to push the button and expect that the fantastic memo or contract comes out of it. But the base information, data, what they had in their system was unstructured. Meaning that they maybe dropped some precedent into the Harvey or Legora or ChatGPT Copilot and asked the system to prepare another document from this precedent. And then they ended up having something which was not of high quality. And now what is happening is that the more educated law firm leaders and lawyers start to understand that the real value now in their databases is that they have structured data. I mean, at Sorainen, I can tell we have 25 million documents in our document management system.
That's a lot.
That's a huge amount for, let's say, 300 plus lawyers. And it's because we had this document management software, which we took about 20 years ago. And it was so easy always just to store a new document into the system without really considering that, is this just an updated version of the previous one? So the system kind of permitted you to store a new document. So the kind of a data hygiene was poor for us 15 years ago. So then you end up with having a lot of trash in your system. So maybe of our 25 million documents, maybe only 2% is actually valuable data. But how do you find this needle in the haystack? And the same, all bigger law firms have the same issue. They have so much unstructured data in their system. So how do you find something useful and then start to work with the AI on it? That's the big challenge. So we come back to this, how to structure data. Now, one way to structure data is to create automated documents. And automated documents, they have been around for 25 years already. So it's nothing new. But automated document means that you pull all your firm's know-how into one place, into one master template. So in one master template, you have all your firm's best practice and know-how, and then you modify that master template into any specific situation. And the best way to modify that is by automating it, meaning that you have choices. You kind of tick boxes. You make selections. I mean, like you fill out any form. But when you fill out any kind of an intelligent form, when you tick a box, then comes a kind of a new set of questions, which leads you to a new path. And this is how you automate the document. But the point is that you have everything in one place. And once you have automated something, and you kind of go through ticking these boxes, because every time you tick a box, that equals to a prompt. You give a command, pre-selected command, and then you end up having the first draft, which is controlled, which is of a high quality standard outcome, and then you put that into the AI tool and start to modify it further. And that's when you start to see the real value. So what most law firms have skipped so far is that they jump from the chaos utilizing AI tool and expect to have gold. Whereas you have to first create the order, structure your data, make the hard work, a lot of pain and sweat to structure your data and then put AI on top of it. And then you start to see the real benefit.
So do you feel that you have already achieved that at Sorainen, where you have structured all of the data that you want to structure, or are you still just starting out in that process?
We have automated hundreds of template. So the most used documents we have automated. And so I would say that our kind of a database, knowledge management systems are very sophisticated level. Even on European terms, when I meet colleagues from Germany or Nordic countries, I mean, we are very advanced at Sorainen on this. So it means that our lawyers, they can get, let's say, high quality products, documents from our systems quickly in very many situations. However, we may not have been able to figure out how to convert that into increased revenue. So we just know how to make our job now faster and better and of higher quality, but we have not really figured out yet how to make more money with that.
Well, just in the sense of you being quicker, better, and faster should already at least save you some resources that you weren't using beforehand, right? So you're at least saving some money along the way, theoretically at least, right? So this is already good. Do you have maybe any specific examples where your implementation of AI tools or maybe somebody else's implementations of AI tools actually, contributed to a client's situation besides just creating stuff faster? Or is that kind of the main?
I mean, constantly, every day. Every day we see mergers acquisition cases. Currently, the one who is automating most in our firm is the dispute resolution team. But this is, okay, I'm talking about automation. But let's say AI, I mean these same tools what I mentioned to you, they are used at Sorainen every day nowadays. And it is forming the way how we are working. For example, myself, I use more today ChatGPT and Copilot than I use. And also this, what is the third one I use? Google's own AI.
Google has Gemini, I think?
Yeah, Gemini. I have made it so that this Gemini, I can kind of get quick answers. But for ChatGPT, I have made it so that it asks me to improve my prompt. So if I ask some question, it asks me kind of 4 questions back to improve my prompt constantly. So if I need a quick answer, I go to Gemini. If I need a thorough answer, I go to ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and it means for me that I have used much less junior lawyers this year than I used before in research, finding things for me, because now it's so easy for me to find myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a very interesting point, because that is something that is happening across many professions out there, like engineering, for example, software engineering, I mean, like us, but many others, where the capabilities of AI are enhancing the typical work that is handed out to juniors, where you don't need as many anymore, where that is being done faster, where you don't need additional supervision, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's a net benefit for the company. But at the same time, how about the question of how do then people learn? Does that raise the expectations for educational institutions like universities, where somebody used to be a junior, they no longer are, and they need to learn more before they're ready to start the profession? Or is it about separately teaching people and having something else to substitute that type of work?
I think there are, again, 2 elements here. One is the type of people what we are looking at, because this kind of a old-fashioned mentorship model is now under challenge, and then everyone has now access to these AI tools, and juniors as well. And when the juniors get kind of outcome, a result, an answer from the system, which might be including some hallucinations, and they don't control it, then that is a big problem. And that is how can we teach, let's say, people this kind of critical thinking that don't trust what comes out from the system. And some people by nature are more ready to be critical and control the data, and some not. And those who are maybe not so ready to possess this critical thinking ability, maybe they are in a wrong profession. So maybe we just kind of quicker have to assess that whom we keep in the firm and whom not. So that's one element, that those who are able to create this kind of critical thinking, we are able to spot them maybe faster. And then again, it comes to this overall training. I mean, when you look at, let's say, many other spheres of life, take top athletes, for example, or let's say take kind of military special whatever operations. I mean, what do? They train. Everybody trains all the time. You take top lawyers, and you soon realize that they don't really train. They just work. But if you go to the USA, for example, you see that these big law firms in the USA, many of them have built kind of a court rooms inside their offices for training purposes. So they can start to have mock trials in their law firm before they go to the actual court. I don't know any Baltic law firm, or actually I don't even know any European law firm who has built these kind of a courtrooms inside the office for practicing trial. So maybe there's a little bit something in the US, especially among the litigators, that have this training element better understood than we may have in Europe. The other element, what I have seen, which I don't really like, is that lawyers by nature, they are very independent and they want to have a lot of freedom and autonomy in their work. And when you tell lawyers that, okay, we have some mandatory training, they really hate it. They don't want to have anything mandatory. They want to be kind of a free artists, do by their will things. But I'm not so sure that is it the right way to have voluntary training, because I also see at Sorainen that when you organize training, you get only a handful of people instead of getting the whole firm, because people are so busy. I understand it. But then to reconsider how we train people. Is it more online training, more on-demand training? What is the right way to make people to want to train themselves beyond just doing the client work? That is a very interesting topic, and now when the whole way of working with the new technology and AI emerging, that requires a lot of training.
That is true. That is true. I completely agree with you here. And it is a great question to ask. And I don't think that there is an answer to that. Like, what needs to change? How do people need to feel motivated by themselves to address that change? And just generally as a society, we still don't know, probably. And specifically for less experienced people, juniors, people just coming into the professional world, it is an ongoing challenge for them because they need to stand out somehow and they need to learn at the same time somehow as well. So I don't have the answers, naturally, but I do believe that it has to do with the role of AI. And I also saw very interesting statistics on how like AI is applicable to many different industries and who does what and so on and so forth. One of my favorites is the different levels of AI implementations in terms of like enterprise governance, where you take a particular level, like it's a pyramid basically, where at the lowest level you have the easiest from a technological standpoint type of implementations. This is where you influence your processes, your automations basically. This is where AI can do a lot of easy stuff fairly efficiently. And then at the top, you have something extremely complex, something that requires new tech to be created out there to actually benefit, but it is transforming everything. So we see a lot of activity somewhere down below of the pyramid. This is what we talked about already, drafting documents, automating processes, working with existing chat GPT and its analogs. That's all. You can feel the impact of that, but the impact itself is fairly small. But then the transformational stuff, we didn't really see that yet. Maybe it will happen tomorrow, and then everything will be just different. Or maybe it will happen never, and we will just be stuck at that low level. Who knows? But my question to you is, I'm sorry that I've been talking for so long. You're the guest here. So my question to you is, how do you see that relationship between lawyers specifically and AI going forward? Is the future for AI, at least in your mind, to replace a lot of those people and leave just those critically thinking lawyers that can maximize their environments? Or is it something else?
Clearly, I see less room for mediocre lawyers going forward. I mean, we need less kind of pure hands on looking at books and writing, typing simple documents. But if you take the analogy of, remember when Google 25 years ago started to come into common use, so came this Google doctor. People start to Google their diseases and health problems.
They still do.
And they still do, but have doctors disappeared? Or now you can even go to ChatGPT. You get much more thorough answer on your whatever health problem you have. Has that replaced doctors? And the same thing is actually with law. I think there is a little bit kind of an analogy on kind of a, I would say, the health issues. I mean, law is obviously rule-based environment, and you can let's say enter all the rules into the database, but you start to have a lot of health data into the systems already, and people tend to be fairly similar in at least in the most let's say simple health issues. And somehow we have not yet figured out how to automate this doctoral thing. So I guess that as long as there are doctors, there will also be lawyers. There will also be priests. I mean, there's the old saying that what do you need when you grow old? You need a good doctor, lawyer, and a priest. So I guess both of these, all three, will have work also in the future.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But I feel that specifically for doctors, I like this example because we talked in the show about doctors. I haven't had any doctors yet. Need to fix that. Anyway, like it's a great example because I feel that a lot of that work is theoretically possible to automate, and one through AI, of course, and one of kind of the main limiting factors for a lot of European countries specifically is that there's just not enough doctors out there. You need more, but it's very expensive to train them. It's very hard to have them, stay in the place where they are needed most and not where there's, everything there. So there's a lot of problems with doctors. But I think the problem with implementing AI in those kinds of processes is that there's a lot of responsibility in the decisions that you make. Yeah, sure, an AI can consult on your current health problem, but will it be liable for those kinds of consultations if it hallucinates a problem that you don't have and you spend like half of your life fixing it and then you decide that you don't have it anymore because you went to an actual doctor? I think the same is applicable to lawyers, right? You can draft a document via ChatGPT and you can theoretically submit it to a judge somewhere, somehow, but who will be responsible if that document is a hallucination? Yeah. If you reference cases that don't exist, who is going to get sued for the wrong choice? You still need real people, you need a firm, you need somebody to take the responsibility. So like that responsibility, I feel, is something that is just not there for AI.
Yes, especially when the stakes are getting bigger. So what is the kind of pain level or threshold what a person can take, let's say, trusting AI for solving their legal needs? Maybe for someone it is €100, for another one maybe 100,000 euros, but if it goes beyond the limit, then you probably don't want to trust the AI alone.
True. So at the end of the day then, looking towards the future of how lawyers will interact with AI, what's your ideal balance? How would you like to see things develop?
I would like to see that that AI is another tool for us, which is makes the work faster. We can make easier, a bigger impact. The work will be more fun. We can automate and use AI for kind of a boring stuff. And also, let's say, we can focus on the essential, which, let's say, for the most brilliant lawyers, this often is kind of a holistic understanding of a bigger concepts and situation, which are very difficult to put into a prompt. And it's about human relations. I mean, very often, when you negotiate, it's not only it's not all rule based. It's about emotions, and you need good lawyers who have also this emotional intelligence, which we have not yet been able to convert into AI. So I expect work to be much more fun, rewarding, and I see less space for, let's say, mediocrity.
Yes, you've mentioned that, and that makes absolute sense. Right? You give more tools to people, and the people need to do more. Like they have at least the capability to do more. And it's a nice version of the future, I feel. It has still a lot of people doing what they do best, and there's room for fun, like you mentioned, so that is also good. But something that we haven't touched on, and I do want to touch on that, is ethics. So the ethical application of AI, because we do live in a capitalist society and so on and so forth. So a lot of our decisions are going to be driven by profit. And you've mentioned it yourself. We've implemented a lot of wonderful stuff, but how do we make money from it at the end of the day? So for the legal profession, that is kind of doubly important, right? How do you not cut corners? How do you make sure that that data that you possess is, refined? You are actually focusing on that needle in the haystack, like you said, and not the other parts of the haystack, because sometimes you just don't know. Heads of legal law firms are lawyers. They are not technical people. They're not data scientists or engineers. So, they would trust somebody else to create a system for them that actually works. How do you see kind of the ethical question of it? Do we need more regulation as to what we need to do and can do with AI? Or is it just, something that we need to colloquially agree that some things are ethical in terms of application and some aren't? I believe that like art is a good example of that, right? A lot of people can now create beautiful pictures with AI. But I think just as a society, we kind of agree that that's just not there. That's not what art is about. Yeah, the picture is beautiful, but that's just kind of unethical. Anyway, what do you think?
Well, the first element is that can we trust the AI with our confidential data?
Good question.
So whether we can be sure that it stays in a controlled environment, or whether we are training some general large language model with our confidential data and breach our client confidentiality. So this is a big question for law firms, and not only law firms; it's for banks and many other businesses as well. The other one is this ethics about copying, for example. I remember, was it sometimes earlier this year, I read that some a company which was holding a database of photos was suing OpenAI for studying their kind of a photo library.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a clear opinion on this, because, and especially with art as well, that AI, I mean, it looks at a million pieces of art and then it starts to generate art when you are prompting. But I mean, isn't it that in the old days also the artists, they went around all of these art exhibitions and museums and watched other people's art in order to create their own style. So I don't have really a good clear opinion on this copyright topic when it comes to utilizing AI. I haven't been really thinking of that part yet.
Yes, that is true. That is true. That's a nuanced discussion. And the topic of copyright is a hard one, even from like a general perspective and from a legal perspective. It becomes just extremely hard, I think. But I do believe that there is still some personal, ethical boundaries that everybody sets for themselves and every firm sets for themselves. And I feel that what you're describing already is a lot of that, because it would be very easy for you to just use the data as it is. Yeah, it hallucinates sometimes, but junior lawyers make mistakes as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hallucinate too, like not in the same way as an AI does, but they make garbage documents sometimes. And those documents can theoretically go out to clients sometimes. Like that just sometimes happens. You can just live with that, just raise the percentage, lower the costs, higher profits, boom, you win. But you don't do that, right? You value your reputation, maybe you are used to having a particular control over the process and not leaving a lot to those kinds of risks to AI. Risk management, also a big topic, right?
I was thinking of, just as you were talking, kind of where I could see ethical issue. For example, if I would be dealing, let's say, with a court case, and I would ask, make a prompt to AI system that how could I lie to the judge in a way that I don't get caught? Well, maybe this is kind of a borderline on the ethics, but maybe it's still a kind of a issue for me personally. That is this rather than putting the burden on this AI platform that you cannot use it for lying.
I feel a lot of platforms try, like the latest updates of ChatGPT have been around that, where they try to put some guardrails of what it can and cannot say. It hasn't been about lying specifically, that's very hard to define, but they have been implementing like stuff about like mental health or like general health. They try to kind of steer you away to somewhere else. So hard to say, but yeah, that is a good example. Like just maliciously, we're just has half maliciously tried to find a way to kind of hack the case and do something that's, somebody might be liable for somewhere, but if it's a platform, who cares? But what do you think about the other side? So we talked about what's going on the inside of law firms and what you are undertaking in order to be more digital and more transformative. There's also clients, right? And those cases that you mentioned where ChatGPT hallucinated and somebody submitted that paperwork, that's, I think, a lot of it comes from the clients as well. Like, why should I pay a lawyer when I can just have ChatGPT draft like whatever a document I need, right? Like, just submit it. What do you think about client expectations? Will those change with time thanks to AI or stay the same?
It has been a long trend already since the, let's say, financial crisis 2008 that clients want more for less. And I don't see this AI changing this expectation. So this will just be going. But also that I see clients increasingly using AI themselves. So, for example, if we submit clients some legal documents, instead of them reading it, they put it into their own AI engine and ask the AI to comment it. And then they send it back to us. And very often it's completely useless waste of our time to read what the AI comments. Or let's say the other element is that you get these nice AI tools now. They suggest that can I prepare an email for you? Now earlier, I mean, my style to write emails is to write very short, 1 or 2 lines. And now, and many people do the same. We don't want to be lengthy, but the AI wants to elaborate. I mean, long sentences and a lot of text. So when you would use that AI feature, then the recipient, you burden their inbox with these long AI-generated messages. So they need an AI tool to bring it back to this one-liner, that what is the essence of this message. So isn't it funny that you kind of have your one-liner, you use AI to generate a lot of bullshit, the recipient uses AI to kind of consolidate it back to this one-liner, and how many forests you burn in between to generate the electricity.
Let's not think about that. But yeah, that is something that happens a lot of the time. Speaking about that, I also saw some interesting statistics in the Harvard Business Review article I read. It was called Work Slop. On Work Slop. Like they interviewed people on how their opinion changes of somebody if that somebody sends them clearly written AI text. And most of the time, like 30+% of the time, you see that kind of text and you start thinking of the person as less intelligent, less trustworthy.
Yeah.
And they had some other factors I don't remember, but definitely intelligence and trustworthiness were among them. So like around like 40% didn't care, and around like 30% think of you less, basically, when you do that. And a lot of people do that. The article was basically about outloading the mental capacity onto somebody else. You sent me a legal document. I don't have the time or the desire to read it. So here's something written by ChatGPT. Now you handle that again. So you're kind of just outloading the process of thinking on somebody else, and nobody likes that. So yeah, I guess we need to learn how to use and when to use the tools in the end, because otherwise...
There's still no place for kind of a mental complacency on delegating thinking.
Yes. You can delegate writing, you cannot delegate thinking. That is true. Okay, so maybe to wrap up our discussions, do you feel that in the future, considering the amount of data that law firms have and considering the amount of like low-level work that is being automated, do you feel that law firms will become just tech companies at some point more than they are actually law firms?
Well, some will, certainly. I mean, those law firms who are more doing a commodity type of kind of a lower value type of legal work will obviously benefit from technology. They need less lawyers and can maybe scale the work to an extent. Then again, the other type of law firms, which I think Sorainen is also largely, is that the cases are often very complex. But I guess that this might mean that we actually need less junior lawyers and we need more senior lawyers, those brilliant ones, going forward. So maybe the number of partners is just increasing. Perhaps we don't know exactly yet where this is going. But one thing is we have been talking a lot about implying AI on this kind of legal work. But something what we did with this Crespect, our own AI platform, is how to get a lot of this kind of a soft operational data into the system, which otherwise would remain in the heads of lawyers. Soft operational and legal data, which is largely about the CRM, about the lessons learned from the work what we do with the clients, and how clients expect us to work with them, debriefing notes. So all this type of data, which will then help us when you start to put AI tools and you start to chat with your data, which is in a structured form in the system, then you start to actually understand your client base, client portfolio much better. You start to see the opportunities, you start to see where you should pay more attention to, where you can pay less attention to, which kind of a cross-selling opportunities you will have. have, and where are the emerging leads which you otherwise wouldn't notice because you are too busy in your everyday work. So I have a lot of expectations to this, what we are now building in which enables us to understand our client base and the business potential within our client base much better than ever before utilizing AI.
Let's hope that that is exactly what will come out of it, instead of ruining your reputation and ruining customer relationships, because the customers will use AI, the lawyers will use AI, and then AI will talk with AI and they will hallucinate between themselves.
Yes.
And nothing will get done. But I do believe in the same thing that you do. There is potential to give more insights and get more insights and give more value to the clients in the end. So thank you, Jaakko. Thank you very much. Where can people find you, reach out to you, read more about your thoughts?
From LinkedIn, obviously, and they can always find me from our Sorainen website, and I'm happy to answer any inquiries.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for listening to our episode today. If you liked the episode, leave a comment and like the video. If you didn't like the video, take a comment as well. And you cannot dislike it on YouTube. So even if you press the button, it's still going to count as engagement. So I will benefit from that. Tell about our episode to your friends and look out for the next one. Cheers.